Well, we'll call this meeting back to order, being just about 1 o'clock. And I will refer us to item 9.3, Lake Newell Resort Marina Boat Launch Replacement Discussion. And we have a delegation in here, Todd Beasley, and I'm going to suggest that we all introduce ourselves so we know who we're talking to. Start with Neil there, and then we'll proceed.
Good to see you, Todd. Neil Johnson.
Hey, Todd. Amanda Philpott, Division 8, Duchess.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Ellen Unruh, and I represent the Rosemary area.
Hi, Todd. Greg Screever, Lake Newell Resort and Castles.
Good afternoon, Todd. West side of the county.
Arno Dirksen from the GEM area, Division 9.
Todd, Matt Fensky, we've met.
Hey, Todd. Holly Johnson, Scandia Rainier in Bow City.
Hello, Adina Scandra, Division 2, the Chile area.
Hi, I'm Dan Short from Division 1, Rolling Hills.
Hi, Lynette Kopp, Division 3, Patricia Millicent area. Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Sandra Stanway, Brooks Bulletin.
Julian Anacrico, Vice President, Lake Newell Marina Association.
Bill Herman, President of the Marina Association.
Rick Nowak, the Lake Newell Marina Association.
Mark Harbeck, Director of Municipal Services.
And Todd Beasley. Welcome. With that, I think we'll give you the mic and go ahead and make a presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dirksen and board members. I sincerely appreciate your time today. So what we're here for is we're here to ask for your support for redoing the boat ramp out at Lake Newell Resort. I've had an opportunity to meet with both Jeet Shergill and Stephen Law and Sanjay Shergill as well yesterday. And if this application goes forward, they're prepared to transfer their rights and their ownership into the public domain. They're prepared to accept an easement when it's all said and done, including road access in perpetuity. And they're prepared to dedicate 30 truck and trailer equivalents parking spaces for the development for in perpetuity public parking, public availability. Now, the reason for this application so late in the fall is I've had a number of meetings with Ivan Friesen over at the Eastern Irrigation District, and we know that with the drought that the levels in Lake Newell continue to drop. And I met with him about an hour ago, and he's authorized me to say this to you, that if we continue to have drought, the water levels could drop as much as another 2 to 3 feet. And worst case scenario, it could be as much as 5 feet. That represents an opportunity for us here in the fall in the context of redoing a piece of infrastructure that is long past its end of life. We've got some pictures in the grant application that we've submitted to you, and it shows the horrible state of that infrastructure. So what this gives us the opportunity to do is to rebuild that location. The Eastern Irrigation District, Ivan said, to make sure I said with his board approval, are prepared to do the work in terms of bringing in the heavy equipment. They're prepared to prepare the base. Because the water levels are so low, we believe that we will not require cofferdams or silt mitigation, which would typically be required if the water levels were higher. We've got quotes from the same construction group that's provided the ramps for other irrigation infrastructure, Crawling Valley. So it's a very highly credible quote in terms of price, in terms of quality of what they would install, and the numbers are before you. Now, there is a higher level issue that I've had the opportunity to brief both Matt and Mr. Dirksen on, and what I can say is this: it is our expectation, based on a series of meetings that will be coming up at the end of the month, which will include the Premier and a number of other ministers in Alberta, that location will in all likelihood become a location for investigation and certification for invasive species management. We all know that the zebra mussel and the quagga mussel are at our borders, and we're looking at a significant ramp up in terms of our ability to investigate, certify, and do the very best we can to keep these out of our irrigation system. So it's expected that this location will become key and integral to that effort, particularly to Lake Newell. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got. By golly, we'd sure like your approval on this, because now's the time to do it. If we're forced to do it at a later date, invariably these costs could double, if not triple, because of the need for cofferdams and the need for silt mitigation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks might have.
Thanks. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, just one question, Todd. They're going to donate parking space for 30 boats, 30 units.
Yes.
Is there any extra, like that's not very much space on a busy weekend.
Well, that space equivalent is actually quite a bit, Neil. But what he said was that is in the context of them providing a development plan when they develop that area. The location where we currently have parking, which is adjacent to the current clubhouse, we can use that for as long as is necessary to remain as parking. But if they decide that they want to present a long-term development plan, which might include condos, it might include a restaurant, it might include things that I can't anticipate, what they are prepared to guarantee is road access. It may not be exactly where it is, but it would certainly be the width and public access full-time, and the boat ramp itself and that parking space, I would characterize it as a minimum. So fundamentally, we can go back at when they submit a development application at a later date, if additional parking becomes necessary, and if that's reasonable. I found Mr. Shergill and Mr. Law and exceptionally willing to work with us. They're committed to the development, they're committed to the area, and when I simply said, we need your help, they were very forthright and willing to give it to us. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Well, I think it's an excellent idea. It's just, I'm just looking at the other boat launch at Kinbrook.
Yep.
And there's probably 200 vehicles there. If we want to relieve a bit of that stress onto this site, maybe 30 isn't enough. I don't know.
Fair comment. Fair comment. We're not camping at this part of the lake though, so it's primarily day use as opposed to people coming in for a week or a weekend at a time, and everybody in that campground that's brought a boat is remaining at that location. So this is primarily for day use.
Yeah, cool. Good answer.
Sorry?
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Lynette, please. Thanks.
At the beginning of your presentation, you listed off some names. Who are these people and what do they have to do with all of this? And if it is the developer, if that's who it is, who's going to retain ownership of what happens?
Well, what I've said, so first of all, it's Lake Newell Land Corporation, which is Alberta. It's regarding the owners of Block 9411167, Block 6. So I believe that they're the group that physically owns the marina and the right to develop the marina. So currently the boat ramp, and that's all we're talking about here today, is owned by this group, and they have care and control of it. But I've said to them, if public money goes into this, there can't be a retainer of ownership. You have to agree that that's to your benefit for any development plans you might have at a later date for the things that I just described. But the quid pro quo is that this needs to be transferred into the public domain in perpetuity. This is an agreement, which I'd call a memorandum of agreement or a memorandum of understanding. It needs to be translated into a formal legal easement agreement. But the long and short of it is wherever it needs to go for ownership to ensure that public access, that public availability, they have no problem with executing whatever paperwork would be necessary. I would defer to you. Where should it go? Does the county want it back? Should the EID have it? I don't know. We just have to make sure that in perpetuity, public access, if public money is going into it. The other thing that I said is there will no longer be charges at that location for people to put their boat in and out of the water or to park. That would be the quid pro quo of public money as well, if that's the way that you folks see it, is a condition of approving this grant application. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Holly, please. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with the site. So historically, I just heard you say that you had to pay to put your boat in and out. It was never public access, or you could use it if you live in Lake Newell Resort, or how did that work? And why has it not been inspected for mussels up until now if boats were going in and out?
Well, I can say this, and what I would ask with both Matt and Mr. Dirksen, when it's quiet time and you're all amongst yourselves, I don't want this on the public record yet. We've got the Premier coming here on the 1st to discuss this, and in all fairness to her, she hasn't made some of the high-level decisions for the entire watershed. This isn't just a Lake Newell issue, but specific to Lake Newell, it is our anticipation that we're going to have 2 inspection and certification locations at Lake Newell, which will become mandatory. One of them at the provincial campground, and the other one at the north end of the lake, which with this will become public access. To answer your question, it's been semi-private, although there's been no restriction to the public, but because it's semi-private, they have charged, I think it was $15 an access to put your boat in the water and park your vehicle for the day. That will not remain if we're successful in this application and public dollars go into it, unless that becomes a condition of funding. Maybe you want there to be a revenue legacy out there for whatever purposes there might be. And I can tell you this, with a brand new boat ramp, no one's going to argue about $15 a day to put your boat in the water. If you go up to Strathmore or any other location, every one of those are charging events. But again, this is public money. Whatever your conditions would be, they're prepared high level to say no, public domain, no charge, public access. In particular, if it suddenly becomes mandatory because of the inspection issues, where it becomes only 2 locations where you can introduce a watercraft, I think it would behoove us to make it as easy on the public as possible if that suddenly becomes an overriding issue.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Greg.
I just want to say I'm 100% again for, not against, for this boat launch. Now, and it's very important for not only Lake Newell Resort, but the entire county and southern Alberta, because we do have the warmest lake in Alberta. One question that I have is ownership. Ownership of the land that the boat launch sits on. I believe it's EID land, which, like Crawling Valley, like EID campground, not like the Alberta government campground, Kimbrook across the way, they own that boat launch. Yeah. EID, is there a lease agreement that the Marina Association has or someone has about that boat launch? See, my big concern is I know the current board at the EID is for access to the water and for recreation. Future boards, we don't know, and I know that it is in the EID's realm that they could say no more access. Is there any kind of agreement that, or anything in writing about some kind of 100-year lease or something like that to be used? Because I'd hate to see the county put money towards a piece of infrastructure that could be ripped out in a moment's notice.
I think that's a very fair question. And I can say this, there is an agreement. Fundamentally, with this easement, this was a foundation of the EID to dedicate any of their resources for Ivan to take it to his board of directors. This easement agreement was a foundation. I believe, quite frankly, they're viewing this as an exceptionally positive, that this now takes it out of semi-private hands and it now puts it firmly back in the public domain for both access and, as I say, in perpetuity. And there's no timeline on this where there's clawback from the developer where in 50 years he gets it back. This is in perpetuity.
Thanks. Go ahead, Greg.
That's for Lake Newell Land Corp, correct?
Yes.
That doesn't name EID. The EID, the boat launch, is going to be on EID land. The agreement needs to be with EID for that boat launch.
So what they've said in do you have a copy of this?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So what they're basically saying is they will authorize any. You want to help? Okay. Okay. No, this is our president of the Marina Association.
Just turn that mic on and then, yeah. Go ahead and sit down if you yeah. Okay.
So before Todd had become involved in this, I had some discussions with Lake Newell Land Corp. Okay. Thank you. So before Todd had become involved as the president of the Marina Association, I had a meeting with Jeet and his people, and it was my intent because we were going to attempt to replace this launch because it was in drastic need of repair. So I had started initially an agreement, and I had some discussions with the EID, and they have confirmed that they do not own the boat launch. And Jeet's company said they didn't own the boat launch. So when I was going to structure the agreement, it was going to be on the basis that if the Marina Association anteed up the money to do it, then both the EID and the Lake Newell Land Corp would agree that they have no interest in it. So at this point, in my discussions with the EID, they don't own the launch. They certainly own the land. And so it's our belief that if the public funds are contributed to it, that it would be a public entity of some sort. And as Todd has indicated, if we could charge a nominal fee, fine. If we can't, then that's fine too. The Marina Association relies on some of its income from the charges that we impose for the people using the launch. And so that's why initially we had this interest in replacing it, because it's a disaster and it's a liability issue as well.
Okay, thanks. Todd, what is your relationship to the Lake Newell Resort Marina Association?
I have no interest, relationship other than I've known Jeet and Stephen. I met them personally 20 years ago at a friend's home, and that relationship has helped foster the conversation, but I have no interest in Lake Newell Land Corp. Is that the question?
No, not Land Corp, Marina Association.
I'm an owner of a home out there, and I'm particularly interested in advancing the issue of providing the infrastructure that's going to be necessary for invasive species, Arnold. That's one of my number one drivers. For me, that infrastructure development, tourism is secondary. Tourism is a great benefit, but we need infrastructure in this lake to provide the security for it. And that's, for me, I'm hoping I'm conveying that and saying as much as I can. And I would ask you if you felt that it's appropriate to bring the rest of your board members in on some of the conversations that both Matt and you and I have had. I'm okay with that. High level, this is about, for me, about providing the tools that are necessary for invasive species management on this lake. And that boat dock, or that boat ramp, is just not going to do it. Tourism is a secondary benefit.
Okay, thank you. Did you have yeah, more questions? But go ahead, Greg. You had a follow-up, yeah.
So I still don't. I know that the Land Corp and the EID have no interest in ownership of the ramp. Okay. Who owns the land that the ramp is sitting on? And it's the EID, right? Is there an agreement in writing that they can just stop access to that ramp?
I would say that they're not motivated to do that. They are fully supportive, including putting their resources into the development of this ramp. It's a fair question. If that needs to be a condition of this application, I have no problem with that. And that's a reasonable request. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Holly?
Two things. The EID likes to control access to the water, so I don't know if they would be interested in signing anything. I don't know if they would. It's a good question, though. Secondly, what's the risk that we build this and then there's really good access, but it doesn't become an inspection site and we're increasing the chance of invasive species in the waters?
Well, I'm going to say this, and this is on the record. Lord help us. This is an existential threat to our waterways that most people are not aware of. These are at our borders. I asked for our premier to be here, and she said yes in 3 days. And when it came down to it, I believe everybody is motivated to do what's necessary to put the resources, to be proactive, to be reactive is unthinkable. This has been public information for a number of years that we haven't had the leadership to do anything about it. This will be a $100 to $300 million hit to our economy and our way of life. This may very well be the end of our irrigation system if we don't get a handle on this and get a handle on it now. They're in Montana, they're in Manitoba, and for the large part, much of the certification, the investigation, everything that's necessary to keep them out has been quasi-voluntary. And what we're going to be asking for is that this becomes punitive, that we change our legal code to make inspection and certification with dogs mandatory. And Lake Newell, because of its unique water characteristics, because of its flow, is an area that we need to pay particular attention to. And I, you know, what I can say to you is this, folks, is that everybody that I've spoken to, everybody, 4 ministers, we've got the premier's attention. The head of every water district is going to be here at the end of the month. And we intend to put significant, time is of the essence, energy into this. I'm quite frankly, I can't choose better words. I know this is on the record. I am scared shitless if these get into our waterways.
Okay, thanks. Dina, please. Lynette, go ahead.
I'd like to know what the Lake Newell Marina Association actually is, or what you do. Like, are you kind of like an ag society? What do you need money for? Like, that you would be charging people to use the marina, or is that just for upkeep? I don't know what you all do.
That's a fair question. We're primarily not for profit. Nobody gets paid on this board. What we're attempting to do is to provide the best infrastructure we can for public access. Even though up to this point it's been semi-private, we want to convert that to full public access, and it's our ultimate expectation that will be one of 2 locations in this area that we're going to be advertising for tourism. This is where you go. You don't go anywhere else. You don't nilly-willy put your boat in the water in an area that doesn't have infrastructure in place for certification and confirmation. So we're non-profit. This is the boat ramp that we're talking about, and its access and associated parking. This isn't the boat docks. The boat docks themselves are going to need infrastructure and development, and that will be done by the Lake Newell Marina Association together with the developer. We do not expect public money to go into the docks. We just need strictly public money for the ramp, and the quid pro quo from the developer is he's willing to transfer it all back into the public domain.
Okay, I've got a few other questions here. Adina, go ahead.
All right, so I'm concerned.
Through the chair, please. Yeah, you're good.
I am concerned about putting public money into something that's semi-private. I would rather, and I know this is a great time to be doing this, but I would rather see us considering putting public money into it when it is public property and not semi-private.
That's a great comment. What we're saying is, and the developer has agreed, as a quid pro quo of public money going into it, as a condition for that money, he is willing to say, if you say yes, if you will support this application, he will transfer it with formal easement documents for the ramp, for the roads, and for a preliminary dedication of public parking. And that will be, what you're concerned about, it will be transferred into the public domain as a condition of approval.
Thanks. Dan?
Got 2 questions. One was about this public parking. Is this talking about having paved public parking there?
No, at a later date when there's a full development plan that's submitted, I think that they will have to pave out there. But right now what we've got is we've got more than suitable gravel roads that are hardened, and they're more than suitable. My expectation of the EID, again, subject to Ivan going to his board for formal approval, but, you know, I don't want to put words in his mouth. You know, obviously he's given the authorization to use his name and talk about the EID on the record here today. What I believe that they will do is they will rip the old ramp out. They will put the gravel in and prepare the location for the cement work that's going to be done. It'll be a continuous pour together with appropriate rebar, and the road to it will invariably be re-prepared and gravel will go on top of it. It won't be paved, but the road is more than suitable for that location for access and for parking.
The second question was, if we're going to have up to 30 vehicles parked there and boats and all this stuff going over there, my concern is of the northern leopard frog and what impact that might have on that endangered species.
That's a great question. Now, you know, I've actually spoken to biologists about the northern leopard frog, and on the other side of the lake, right adjacent to the inlet canal, that's actually a breeding location, is what I've now led to believe. They have not seen the leopard frog in the marina area itself. The conditions are such that there is an overgrowth of cattails or any things like that that are in the area, and there's continuous weed management in there. So I'm led to believe that that location isn't the concern that perhaps the other side of the lake with a static pond where they may be present. And as I say, that appeared to be a breeding location is what the biologists have told me. Okay, fair question.
Okay, thanks. Kelly and then Greg, sorry.
Okay, so I'm leaning towards being in favor of this project. Just how we get there, I don't think we can get there today, Todd.
Yeah.
Just for me anyway. I think we need to have a conversation with the EID. I know you're saying what they're saying.
Of course.
If that's all good, then I'm good. But I do think there needs to be an agreement and maybe some more information about charging or not charging. You know, you seem pretty aloof about it, one way or the other. But I think public access is public access. But that could mean I'm not a boater. So if everybody else is charging, then probably we should be. So maybe some more information along that line for me.
My personal feeling, no, we shouldn't charge. That's what I said to Jeet and Stephen and Sanjay. If this is public money, it's public money. Why should they be charged twice? And that's how I feel. You may have it as a condition that you want us to charge a user's fee for long-term, whatever that purpose of that revenue might be. But I believe that it should not charge. We want to encourage people to come to this location. At the end of the day, it is day use, so we're not talking about overnight parking. And you know, I'm happy for that to be a condition of funding. If your condition is no charge for that boat ramp, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Okay, I think, yeah, we've heard that actually, so I understand that. Go ahead, Craig.
So has the ID been approached for funding also? If there protection of the waterway, of the lake, that's very important. I'm more leaning towards the tourism aspect and the use for our residents of Lake Newell Resort in the county. It's a big recreation area, and I see it every day. It is important to be there, but I think the ID needs to have a financial stick in the game, and I think that we do need additional information directly from the ID in order to make an approval today. I don't think that that's there yet, but I think that we're getting closer.
So what Ivan has told me is any permits that are required, if permits become required from Alberta Environment, that's a condition. The easement was a prime concern for him. What he's saying is with his board approval and with those satisfied, they're prepared to do the work. And what I'd suggest is the $65,000 that we're asking for the cement work in the ramp, it's that again in terms of ripping out the old, putting the gravel in. You know, this is hi-ho equipment. This is big equipment that's going to come in and do it. And I would suggest that they have similar skin in the game. You know, I do believe that the city of Brooks should be approached. I believe that I think that there's reasons for them to maybe want to put a few dollars into this, but that's another discussion. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Neil. Good.
Yeah, I'm in total support of this. Been on the EID board. I don't foresee any problem whatsoever. The EID's they have a duty to create access to the lake, and they take that pretty seriously and do a good job of it. So I'm not worried about that at all. I have a real problem with if the district comes in, does their work, they're tax exempt. We put our public money in there. I would not support a docking fee or whatever you want to call it. Actually, I'd vote against it if there was a docking fee.
I completely agree with that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And there's no need, once it's been upgraded, there's no need to build a pot for the eventual replacement of it. It's been replaced.
Thanks.
Yep.
Matt, you had some comments?
I'm sorry to speak in contrast to Todd's last comment, but I think one of the things that's interesting about this proposal is the launch has failed. So now you're faced as a council with an ask to replace 100% of that value. I think one of the issues with considering no launch fee moving forward is that's actually what makes the service sustainable over time. Because what you put in today, in 30 years, you're going to be having the same conversation. It's going to fail again. And if the model is the public purse will replace it at 100% again in 30 years, that's fine. But I think council needs to go into the decision with eyes wide open. If you put the condition on that, you know, the 60 grand you're putting in today gets you free access for perpetuity, there's going to be a time where the public purse is going to be reached into again to fix it up moving forward. But I do think there's two things I've heard that are important. One of them we've caught in one of the proposed motions. So the easement across Lake Newell Land Development Corporation, as well as we'd want to add in to a motion agreement from the EID that secures any work that is done there. A few options administration put in front of council is you could look at this as a public good. You could dip into the municipal reserve, fund the 65,800, 100%. In return, you get free public access. You could also look at it in terms of, well, it's been there for 20, however many years. There should be some money set aside to replace it. So you could look at it through the lens of your recreation funding policy and say, we'll put 50% in and expect fundraising and the association to do the other 50%. I don't think you've got as much leverage if you only go the 50% route in terms of trying to secure an easement. So there may be some benefit looking at it through that municipal reserve lens, but definitely the legalities need to be in paper before I think any dollars flow on it. I did have a conversation with Ivan before our meeting today. EID would support, or Ivan anyways, subject to his board's approval, whether it's equipment, materials at cost, or if the board's feeling generous, maybe they're feeling generous, but that hasn't been established. So the 65,800 today is only for the boat launch proper, not for getting rid of the existing and doing all the groundwork. So there might be a few prerequisites you want to get sorted out before pulling the trigger entirely, or you can make the motion and just have it contingent on those three things.
Thanks, Matt. I think that provides good context. Greg, please.
So from what I'm hearing is that to take out the old, install the new, with all the dirt work and all the concrete work, that the 65,000 is roughly half So yeah, I would be in support of the 65,000 as long as the ID does their part of the agreement according to what their board says. So that to me is a 50% ask.
Wonderful.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Kelly, please.
Can you tell me what the boat launch fee is now
$15
per slip?
per launch and
Per
withdrawals.
launch.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So having heard and considering all the information, I'm prepared to make option 1 a motion with adding an EID agreement to it, including their in-kind work, and also agreeing to a launch fee. I like the idea of the money coming back, the user pay system.
Okay.
I think that that's important. We talk about that in recreation all the time, that users pay something towards their habits. So that is part of my motion.
Okay, thank you. Further questions, Holly?
Well, if you're looking at a user pay system, where do the user fees go then?
So that should be included in the motion as well. I think possibly an agreement with the Marina Association that has done the work so far to continue to do that. So that's something that we could flush out in the details.
Sounds good.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
I don't really want to flush it out. I'd like to kind of make a little more detail here because I believe you said a portion of that money you use, it's collected, not all of it. Am I correct on that?
There's yearly fees. So if a person wants to buy a yearly access pass, if you will, that's a couple of $100. Or if you're paying, just a single use, then it's $15 that is charged. But many of the people that live out at the lake, as an example, they buy a yearly pass.
But does all that funding go to the Marine Association, or where does it all go?
Currently it does, yes.
So you're right, we need to flush that out because $200 a year is pretty cheap for a boat launch. But anyway, how can we get over this hurdle, Matt? Can you, or Arnold?
Matt, do you want to speak to it? Or I think there's a number of details that need to be worked out. Mr. Beasley doesn't represent the Marina Association even. I mean,
we're happy to come back and talk details with Matt.
You have them together, but I think we have an administration that will need to sort out some details before this. I mean, we can take a direction today, but there's certainly some details. Maybe Matt, you want to speak to that because we're not going to get into a open-ended deal here that we don't have the details about, I don't think.
Yeah, so I think council could entertain the motion as Councillor Chrisman has worded it, option 1, with condition of an agreement with the EID that ensures access, as well as directing administration to work with the Marina Association to develop a launch fee memorandum of understanding agreement, how that's going to work. Because that's going to need to be flexible for the Marina Association, I think, over time. So doing a little bit of math and figuring out what an acceptable reserve would be, because I think that's essentially what you're looking at, is that a portion of the launch fee be set aside for future maintenance and replacement of the boat launch.
We would absolutely agree with that. That's reasonable and appropriate.
You spoke to the work being done by the EID as well, right? The cost of construction, basically. Yeah, on an in-kind basis. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Neil and then Dan, please.
Just one question. The residents of Lake Newell Resort pay the same launching fee as anybody else?
Right now, there's a bit of a break, but we're happy to take that off the table. If public money is going into it, it needs to be equal access, and there doesn't need to be any special circumstances for the landowners out there. And in fact, I think the optics wouldn't be right. So we're happy to say it'll be the same for everybody in the community, whether it's a yearly fee or whether it's a single time use fee. I think that's reasonable and that's appropriate, Neil.
That makes a big difference.
Yep.
You've got a ton of boats out there, you're getting $200 off everybody. You might have a decent fund before you know it.
Well, and I think it's appropriate to have a fund for future maintenance that, you know, we're going to build that fund and it'll maybe be sustainable in a way. And I think that's absolutely appropriate.
Dan, we've got a couple boat launches at Kimbrook Island. I'm pretty sure that's a free boat launch. And EID Reservoir, Rolling Hills Reservoir, it doesn't charge for their boat launch. So if we put money into this one and we charge a fee, people are just going to go to the other free ones. And then I think what we've done is we've subsidized that boat launch that will just remain being used by the residents there only because everyone else is just going to go to the free ones. And I'm not okay with that. I think if we're going to build the boat launch where we don't charge a fee, we just let it be public access. And if we're going to charge a fee for boat launch, maybe we need to charge a fee to run on the walking path too. Like, I don't know, where do you start and stop with the user fees?
I would leave it to your judgment.
Thanks, Dan. Holly, and then Greg, and then Kelly.
I answered my own question by reading a little more.
Okay, thanks. Greg.
I disagree, Dan. It's living out there. There are a number of boats that do pay a launch fee. Usually they buy yearly coming from Brooks. The amount of fuel and transportation costs that they don't incur by going to the other boat launch is it's saved by them. So they prefer the closeness to it from Brooks and the northwest part of the county, or the north part of the county. They'll come to Lake Newell Resort to launch, and usually they'll pay the yearly fee. So it's not a huge fee. It's not a deterrent from coming there. And remember, if we're putting in 30 spots to park, this also deters from getting it over inundated with parking problems too. So I think it's a reasonable ask for the fee.
And just I hate to contradict my fellow councillor, but I do believe that Rolling Hills and Crawling Valley do charge for a boat launch fee. Can anybody, I mean, you know, I'm not a boater, so I know they have to register at the office when they enter the campground. And I'm pretty sure that they pay
I know you pay at Strathmore.
I'm not sure about that, and I wonder if we couldn't just leave. I mean, that's a detail that maybe can be worked out with administration after the fact. But Neil, did you have a comment? I think I missed you.
Yeah, for day use, I don't think they charge. It's been a year or two since I've been there, but I've never paid a nickel to get a boat in with them.
Okay, Lynette, please.
Okay, Matt, so which policy would we be pulling this money from? And some of the other groups that have come for money, they got to pony up part of the money too, and then we give them so much. So what are we looking at here? Are we pulling out of reserves?
Your choice. So behind door, option one, which is the one Councillor Chrisman went through, was your municipal reserve. So through the subdivision process, developers often have an option to put money in lieu of a municipal reserve. So over time, those monies accumulate. They can only be used for very specific things: parks, recreation areas, schools. So this could, if council saw fit, fall in that category where you could fund it 100% and the money comes out of municipal reserve. You have just over $250,000 in that reserve account. Door number two would be your recreation facility improvement funding policy, which we're going to update in a few minutes here today, where you look at it and you say, well, really, Marina Association should have been socking money away for the replacement of this thing. You know, that's best case scenario. So we'll fund half of it and they can fund half of it because it's in that category 2 major project. So really, I think the determination between do you go through door one or door number two is how you feel about the public good that comes out of the investment. If you're thinking it's really a local benefit, I'd say you go through door number two and say, 50-50. If you're thinking, you know what, the 100%, it gets us public access and potentially perpetuity. The thing's not going to last for perpetuity. But there's some benefits that accrue to the public that aren't currently there. Then you can convince yourself that door number one is an acceptable door to go through.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Holly.
So I'd be curious to know why the Marine Association has not put money aside towards replacing if they knew it was a problem then.
All of these issues, you know, the easement, the ownership, it's basically been years trying to get things done, and it's all of a sudden now coming to a head. And, I was fortunate that I've got a relationship with the developers, and I was able to go up and sit down with them and talk to them in the context of the importance of this, and they recognized that it was. So that piece of the puzzle was put together 24 hours ago. At the end of the day, the marina has got other issues as well that it needs to focus on. We were very fortunate that the EID rebuilt the breakwater in that marina. We had a major storm out there 5 years ago, and it just about destroyed the marina entirely. We just about sunk boats out there, and we just about had oil going into the water. So the EID came out and they had major extensive works where they had rebuilt much more money than we're talking here. That's why I'm comfortable in saying they're motivated, particularly for that area. But the docks themselves are going to need to be replaced. They're at the end of their life. And because of what I described in terms of what we hope this location will become, the urgency of the request because of where the water levels are now, we felt that it was appropriate to revisit this, and that's the reason for the ask. And quite frankly, with this, our focus of the Marina Board is going to be the docks themselves and the breakwater. I mean, if you've been out there, the breakwater itself is just about destroyed. We're fortunate that the boat ramp has security gates that were metal and were installed. Holly, I'm hoping that isn't a long-winded answer to your question, but we have other issues that we have to deal with as well, is really the long and short of it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Holly, please.
I'm just wondering about adding to Kelly's motion. I don't have an issue with spending that money if it becomes an inspection site, because we need that. Like, to me, that's the key piece of the inspection site, because if we just fix it up, it gets used as a launch and it's not an inspection site, we are increasing our risk to our irrigation and our entire ag sector and our tax base too. So I'd like, would you consider adding that to your motion?
I think those are two separate issues, frankly. I think if the problem with if every lake in Alberta isn't going to have an inspection site to keep these muzzles out of the threat out of each lake, that has to happen at the borders. The first line of defense has got to be at the borders in terms of this, because it's not just, this predator is not one that is unique to our area. It's every irrigation district, and what we do locally, I mean, it could come in on the river in Calgary. It's not, this is, I think actually well, I mean, you can do some kind of an inspection if you want to, but this is not a front line of defense for the threat that we're talking about. That has to happen at the border where it is now, and it likely isn't as good as it could be, and we've heard that from the Alberta Irrigation Districts Association as well. So there's more that needs to be done, but this is not going to be a front line of defense. We've lost the battle if we're just trying to keep it out of Lake Newell, because it's somewhere else in Alberta then. So those are two different issues, I think. I appreciate the concern that you're raising, and it's important, but this is a different issue. This is more about recreation and access to Lake Newell. So it's a credible concern and bears on the decision we make, I suppose. So maybe we want to discuss it further. I don't know. Oh, Kelly, I'm sorry.
If you want me to speak to it as well, I echo similar. I feel like it's a case of the chicken and the egg. We'll get there if we hopefully have the proper site. I do have a question about the age of the site now. I read it somewhere the other night. What is the age of the present dock?
This was infrastructure right from the very beginning of the development. So I mean, how long has the resort been out there? 40 years, 30 years?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's you know, if you see the pictures, it's,
I can see the rough condition
done.
it's in,
Yeah.
but I just wondered how long it took to get there.
Yeah. And I, you know, I'd point out that those are individual concrete blocks that are attached with nuts and bolts. And what we're talking about is replacing it with a continuous pour, which is going to have significantly longer life to it. And it will have the appropriate rebar in the cement itself. And this is by a group of contractors that are highly skilled in the art of building boat ramps. So it's my expectation that this is a 40 to 50 year lifetime is what I would hope to see out of it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments or questions? Ready for the question? Yeah. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ariana, for sending this to me. That council approves the funding request from the Lake Newell Marina Association for replacing the Marina boat launch in the amount of $65,800 with funding from the municipal reserve that is contingent on registration of a blanket easement at land titles on the Marina lot of Block 6, Plan 941167. That provides public access to the boat launch over its useful life on the condition that there is an agreement for access with the EID. Further, that administration be directed to work with the Marina Association to develop a launch fee memorandum of agreement.
Okay, ready for the question? Dan, one more question.
Who's going to be in charge of those fees? Because from what I hear, they were charging fees for the boat launch to eventually make repairs, but now they don't have the money to put into repairs. So I'm kind of curious as to who's going to be managing those fees.
So my intention would be administration would work with the Marina Association. We'll come to some kind of agreement and we'll bring the agreement back to this table for ratification. Maybe at the end of the day, after we've discussed back and forth, no fee makes sense. Some fee makes sense. Who knows? Right? I think folks need to sleep on it.
Okay, ready for the question? All in favor, please indicate. Opposed? Okay, that's carried. I think there's some details to work out here, obviously. And the other thing I'm going to say is that I think the context for our decision here has to do with recreation at Lake Newell through the Lake Newell Marina Association. It is not connected, and the timing is connected to the fact that the lake is low. It's not connected to the other issue or seen as a front line of defense for the other concern that's raised around zebra mussels, which is that is what it is. But I think this decision is independent of that circumstance, and that's important to note. Okay, Neil?
That's a good point. Like we're forgetting Crawling Valley, Rolling Hills Reservoir, Newell in two places. That's 4 stations out there. It would amaze me if you ever got funding for one of them for the zebra mussels. Like you can't do them all.
This is not connected to that. No.
Arnold's exactly right. This is a border issue, but it is also high traffic areas. What you would hear from the EID is that as many as 10 to 20% of the boaters that cross our borders are outside of the timelines of inspection and certification. And what we need to do is we need to have secondary lines of defense in every lake where we've got high traffic. And Arnold's right. If we get it in, Lake Newell is nothing special in the context of connected waterways, but it's all a piece of the puzzle. and we've got to provide that infrastructure. We've got to provide that diligence in every one of our waterways where it makes sense. So thank you so much for your support, folks.
Okay.
We very much appreciate it.
And I'll remind council that you can't just put a boat launch anywhere in the county. Let's recess for 5 minutes. We'll reconvene at 2 o'clock. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's break our recess and reconvene. We are up to point 11.1, administrative business, tax sale by public auction. Matt, please.
Yeah, so I think we can make quick work of this. This is the annual routine for folks who have been a little delinquent on settling their taxes. So we're looking for a motion from council to set the tax sale by public auction date there. And typically, you know, there's a longer list at this stage than what actually makes it to public auction. Typically, we're only going in with 1 or 2, and Shannon works like crazy to get everybody onto either a payment plan or get all their taxes settled up before the public auction. So,
thanks, Matt. Holly, you have a question?
Did any properties actually go to public auction last year? Because we have quite a list. Do we know if any actually were sold?
I don't think so, but I'll get an actual good answer back to you on that.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Any further questions or ready for a motion? We have a recommendation. Oh, Lynette, please.
I'm ready to make the motion for option 1, to make a motion to hold auction on November 16th at 10 a.m. for the properties on the attached schedule at reserve bids as set by the senior assessor.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thanks. Matt, you've got...
And I do have the good answer back from our authority, Shannon. No, none were sold.
Does that mean they all paid up, or just none of them sold? Sorry, I'm being nitpicky.
Yeah, I'll get you an answer on that too.
Okay. Thank you. We're moving to item 11.2, policy review of policy 029-23, the recreation facility improvement funding. Matt, please.
Okay, me again. So this will not be news to you. We kicked this around at committee of the whole. I think we've incorporated the recommended changes we heard there. Significant changes. If you look at the ranges where, you know, previously it was between 10 and 20%. And we took Councillor Holly Johnson's advice and we just went middle of the road. So look at those percent thresholds, they're fixed. It makes the decision making easier. And I think the other significant items we changed are in the definition section. So have we captured what an urgent and emergency situation looks like? And have we sent the signal to our user groups that not having insurance isn't grounds for an emergency? Like, we expect you, and we've got provisions in our lease agreements with our associations to maintain insurance, but, you know, make sure you've got adequate insurance. If something's been destroyed that could have been an insurable peril, and you didn't have it covered, that's not necessarily an emergency.
Okay, thanks. Kelly, please.
So using those words takes me back. We had a situation where the board decided to advance their insurance and not use it for the intended repair purpose. My question is, how do we, council, ensure that we're not funding that window or that roof that was already granted funds for through insurance, and now they're coming as an emergent because it's failed?
Greg.
A proof of claims denial from an insurance company would be the first step.
Okay.
So is that verbiage that needs to be put in here, or is that implied?
Greg, please. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, there's agreements with the recreation associations. Is that correct? With respect to insurance, and maybe the verbiage needs to say applicants are expected to access their own insurance options and proof of insurance denial before any available funds are proof of insurance claim denial from their insurance company before funds are.
Okay, I hear ya. But in my experience that I'm explaining, they did receive the funds years ago, and now they're going to go again. Of course, they're going to be denied. So it's going to come back as denied from the insurance company. So they'll have that denial. But they're denied because they received a payout some number of years before to fix their problem, and didn't, and chose not to.
Greg.
That's fraud.
Go ahead, Matt. You've got a comment?
Yeah, so that's interesting. And maybe we're now down a insurance rabbit hole that we can chase at a later date. I think for the purpose of our rec funding agreement, are we close enough on having articulated what an emergent or urgent situation would look like?
I think we're close. Anyone prepared to make a motion? Holly?
I'm okay with that definition, but I had asked or suggested that applicants need to attend, and that needs to be in the policy, and it's not. So do we want to put that in, or was there a reason it was not put in?
No, I recall the comment. I don't know that we've rolled it in. So I would propose under funding application requirements, we'll add a line indicating the applicant needs to attend and present the application at a regular meeting of council. So then the motion would be council approves the policy as amended.
Okay, sounds good. Neil? Good.
Yeah, I bring this up every time. Before we just go ahead and 50% this, 80% that, whatever we're going to do, shouldn't it be a condition that we have some usage figures? Because I can't believe that a lot of these facilities are even worth keeping around without the usage figures there, and nobody ever brings them. They could get used one day a year and we'd fund it, as long as they came up with their 50%. So I'd like to see a little more information and a little more long-term planning as what are we going to do with all this stuff, other than just fund it for unused purposes. It's got to go to a good purpose, well used.
Okay, thanks.
So to be clear, that is included on the application form that is requested, usage statistics, and how many people your new development or renovated development is expected to serve as well. So those are included.
You've always had problems with getting legitimate statistics, like maybe why don't we create the paper for them to fill out, ask the questions we want answered with a little bit of backup behind them. You're good at that.
I think part of the rub is largely the effort for recreation service provision is volunteer driven, and it's difficult to get everybody speaking the same language. Not that you don't try to continually improve moving forward, which I think is the signal you send with a policy like this. The county is happy to partner in recreation service provision. we're happy to be a major player financially, but we would like to see some of these programs and outcomes mature in terms of their ability to articulate what value county ratepayers get for the investment in the service. It takes time. I mean, it's even difficult for a large organization like City of Brooks, who's centralized and could have people badge in and badge out. No foolproof system yet to articulate usage statistics.
Okay. Kelly?
I'm probably looking for these specific words, but you maybe worded it differently. History, financial history, audited financial reports.
Yeah, so that's also as part of the funding application requirements. And a number of these things are articulated in more detail in the actual funding application form. We've left the funding application form off, so we've got the flexibility administratively to hear these things and throw them in. And if there's something else somebody wants to see when we're around the table, we don't have to bring the policy back. We just update the application form. So we'll be sure that it's updated accordingly.
Thanks.
Good. Someone, Holly, please.
I'd like to approve the policy as amended.
Okay.
A motion to approve the policy as
Move to
amended.
approve the policy as amended. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Appointment of item number 11.3, appointment to County of Newell Library Board. Ariana, you've provided a report for us. Right?
All right, yeah. So the report, just gearing up for the organizational meeting, we will be advertising for 3 divisions, which is 5 and 10, 5 and 10 and 8 for sure. 8's vacant. 6 has agreed to extend her term for an additional year, and Division 7 has agreed to another 3-year term. So we'll be advertising for 5 and 10, 6 and 8. There was discussions about the councillor for Division 8 filling a position if needed. Like if we can't find somebody, we can prepare to appoint that councillor during the organizational meeting. We're just going to leave it for now. So I'm looking for motions extending the Division 6 term for 1 year for Sherry Steinbach, and then another one for the Division 7 additional term for Tammy Cage Parker with expiry dates. And yeah, if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
I'm wondering how much it costs to advertise, and if you've ever had any success with putting it in the paper. Because the 2 that I found people for, I found that somebody who was interested, I went and talked to them individually. I just don't know if advertising has any point to it, because people who read the paper aren't generally looking for another job. I just think we need to, either it's the councillor for that division who needs to work on it, or the library board itself. If the library board wants funding, I think they can help find a councillor. Otherwise, like I just don't know why, if a library is getting all this funding from the county, I don't understand why they don't help find somebody. I just don't understand that.
Okay, go ahead, Ariana.
Sorry, maybe the library board representative, current or past, could respond to that. I feel like the library board does make efforts to recruit people on their own as well. We advertise in the paper. There is a cost associated with it. I can try to figure out how much that is. It's a couple $100 every time, roughly. We do also post it on our website, and we're going to do some social media. Like we have done social media in the past, but we're going to focus and try to push it before. It's most of the applications that have been submitted, I think it's from councillors finding the representatives.
Okay, thank you. Holly, and then Lynette, please.
When I was on the library board, I mean, I just looked at how much each library gets. Like the Brooks Public Library gets a lot of money from the county. And I don't understand why they can't, why they're not helping find that counselor. Just to me, it's never made sense to me. I guess that's why I'm asking people to see it the same way. Like if we're giving money, shouldn't the library boards help find their own people? Can anybody shed some light on this to me if I'm missing something?
Okay, thanks, Lynette.
Like with any volunteer position, it's hard to find people to commit to come to meetings. And especially the County of Newell Library Board, it's only 4 meetings a year, which to people is like, oh, that's nothing, but they still don't want to do it. So I'm not sure what the way to fix this is, but I do think that maybe the advertising dollars that go to the paper maybe could be like just kept in the coffers and done more social media kind of stuff might be, I don't know. We try looking.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Kelly, go ahead.
I would hate to see us lift it from the paper. Honestly, I think it's a public record that we are advertising for community input, and especially for the library, because our library people may not be computer literate. I know some people that I've recruited over the years. You know, it was a learning tool to get them online. So I'm totally okay with spending the money. I like it if we can streamline it into the October, November time for our organizational meeting rather than, you know, May, June. Twice a year seems a little redundant, but hey, we need to get the word out there however we do, because the library board is an important thing in our social fiber.
Okay, thank you. Good. Oh, Matt, go ahead.
Well, I'd just make the comment that Ariana passed along to me here. This time it's for the library board. Next time it might be for FCSS members. You know, there's a number of boards where we're looking for folks at large.
Okay, good comments all, I think, to encourage participation. Adina?
I'm ready to make a motion.
I'm ready to hear it.
Okay, so I make a motion that we reappoint Sherry Steinbach to the County and Newell Library Board representing Division 6 for a 1 term, and Tammy Cage Parker to the County and Newell Library Board representing Division 7 for a 3-year term.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. And we have a proposal for our organizational meeting date. Someone prepared to make a motion there. Ariana, is there a preferred date there? I'm just looking. I read it, but yeah. Preceding our regular council meeting, correct? Someone prepared to make a motion to that effect. Holly, please.
I motion that we schedule the 2023 annual organizational meeting on October 19th, 2023, starting at 9 a.m.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Director of Information and Technology report. Roberta, please. Welcome.
Good afternoon. So I hope everybody got the report and as excited as I am about it all. I tried to make it at least interesting and relevant to council, starting with, of course, council strategic priorities. 4 of those had been assigned to me specifically, and they're all completed, so I'm happy to report that. Communication officer, I thought you might all be interested in an update there. So I can read, I got to put glasses on. The position has been filled. I think everyone's met Catherine. The handovers have been complete, and I think our communications team is very grateful for that. Things are moving along very nicely. Training's been provided on things that are specific to the county. An education plan has been developed. We've been working on day-to-day communications and getting those standardized, as well as updating the communication plan with a council strategic plan piece to that, as well as individual department plans. We're going to roll them all in. So things are going very nicely. Any questions about council strategic priorities? No? So capital projects, network replacement after a very long delay with Supply chain issues, we're on to the very last piece. Everything's been replaced except for the wireless access points. That'll make a difference for operations and everyone else in and around the building. We're excited to get that done. We're just scheduling the contractors. We expect that to be in the next few weeks. Video conferencing equipment arrives tomorrow and we start the replacement next week. So that'll be pretty exciting. I hope everybody will be pleased with how well that'll be, public included. Windows data center update, probably not of too much interest to council, but it is a capital project. We have 7 left out of the 60 VMs, and it has a hard stop of October 23rd, 2023. That's end of life. The 360 camera has arrived, and Steve's been busily getting it implemented and configured and all the documentation done. Portable smartboard replacement. We have a couple of options that we can go with. We're working with users to find out which is the best option for that. And the water meter reading equipment, again, another supply chain issue where it was delayed for over a year. We are now setting some times to get that. The equipment's arrived and now we're just trying to get the contractors in. Any questions about the capital projects? No?
Oh, Dan, please. Thanks, Roberta.
The water meters, that's, so it'll be just wireless reading, just drive down the street and you get the readings, eh?
Yeah, we do that right now. So it's just time for replacement. Yeah, the current ones we had reached end of life. So we'll have some new ones. A little fancier, a little better, we hope, but yeah. Good?
Kelly, please.
Yeah, that would be my name.
That's right.
Roberta, having talked about meter reading, just something came to mind. Is there capability for maybe renting space out? For example, our gas co-ops. Is there the ability to rent some of our space out or utilize? Our gas co-ops spend a lot of money for very few meters in the area. And so it just came to mind, I wonder if that's a way we could support.
It's a good question that I can't answer, and I apologize for that. I think that could definitely be directed to Jeff. He might be able to have it. He kind of looks after it. IT's a supporting department, and we support them with their technology. So it's something that we could bring up for Jeff or someone else. Yeah, explore it, for sure. Thanks. Next one, policy review. I didn't really want to put this in there. My performance maybe isn't as good as I think it should be, but we're getting there. It's important to council. This year we have done 3 policy reviews. We have a number yet to get through. And I'm hoping that we kind of have a goal set by Matt that we will have these in front of you, so you can expect to see those in the next few months. Any questions about policy? I probably didn't start that off too good. No, we're doing a fantastic job. Any questions?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I bet you're all excited. Can hardly wait. Oh, finally, this one I was excited to communicate, and I hope everybody had a chance to take a look at it. I actually thought this was a scam at first. The county has been invited to speak, and I'll have to even, the data analytics for the Public Sector Summit in Toronto on September 14th. Really thrilled. It wasn't a scam. We were actually invited to do that. I was curious why we were chosen, so I did ask. And it kind of boiled down to they needed a public sector, like a local government representative in Western Canada. I think they Googled and they found some other things that we had done previously. And so we were tagged. So they pay for the flight and they pay for one night's hotel room and they pay for the conference for the speaker. I'm pretty excited. We're in really good company. If you looked at the list of speakers, there's some pretty impressive speakers that are going to be there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, for
That's
all
great.
of us, I
Absolutely.
think it's a
Good job. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a great story and we've had opportunity to present that at a few places. So it always excites me to be able to share that story with others. So it's pretty good. And that's it. That's all I had. Any
Okay.
questions?
Anybody have questions? It's good. We'll be interested to hear how it goes in Toronto. That's great. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor payment sheets, 11.6, right? Anything to add to the report? Is what it is, eh?
If you disagree with any of our changes, let me know. We'll figure out if we got it wrong.
Okay, question, go
I'll
ahead.
ask a question. So that 2 hours that I overcharged for, I'm owning it, but I thought we were laying over between council and Grasslands meeting. So is that not the 2 hours? Because it would have been redundant for me to go home and come back.
Meeting itself was 3 hours or 3.5. So I think you might have added in the 2 and then added in the 2 again.
Did I?
I think it's what you did.
Okay, thank you. I didn't look it up. I'm just like, what did I do? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was. You put in the layover twice.
Twice.
Right.
Oh, good for me. Good for you for catching it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? We're good. Do we need a motion on that? No. Oh, acceptance of the councillor payment sheets. Someone make a motion? Kelly? Oh, you have a question, Adina, or you?
Newell Housing Foundation, you said it should have been 0. That was when I had a meeting for policy review that there was only 4 of the Newell Housing Foundation people at. So I had put in time for being at that and you guys changed it to 0.
Oh, I'm looking at that.
Except I don't know why it says 6. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
You have no adjustments on this one.
Oh, well then what am I looking at here?
That'd be from previous months.
Oh, okay.
I think. Yeah, that's.
Okay.
A motion to accept the councillor payment sheet. All sheets, all in favor, please indicate. It's carried. Thank you. Requests for functions of council. And there's an invitation from the Alberta Cattle Feeders Association for a feedlot and butcher shop tour on August the 17th. And that came to you, correct, Matt? I happened to meet Janice at a MP's meeting that I was at in Vulcan, and she talked about it, and I said, well, send it on and we'll put it on. I think that could be an interesting connection, and I think if you read their perspective on it, I think they're looking to reach out and connect with local representatives, so I think it's a positive thing. Somebody want to make a motion around it?
Yeah, I guess I'm actually going to motion because I've decided I'm going regardless of being paid or not. But I think it should be a function of council because it is networking for our council. So I think it falls under that.
Okay, you make the motion. All in favor, please indicate. Or further discussion first? Is there discussion on this? All in favor, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. Holly, please.
Just in regards to Garnet Altwasser and the Canadian Agriculture Hall of Fame event in PI, it's an honor to the county that he's being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And as the nominator of that award, I would like to move that the Reeve and 3 councillors be allowed to attend as a function of council.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there discussion on that? Kelly, go ahead.
Well, I would go two councillors, two council representatives. I think that it's an honor. Congratulations to Garnet and the family. I would really like to limit it to two. So that's where I will go with my vote, just so you know.
Okay, thank you. Neil and then Greg.
How many of you want to go? 1, 2, 3, 4. And Arno was 5. I don't care. Draw them out of a hat and make it 3. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
No,
it's
your
for 4,
motion was
4,
for 3.
4. Yeah. Greg?
Yeah, I'm on the same mindset as Kelly. I think the Reeve and one other, I think that would be more than enough to go, to tell you the truth. So I'm in agreement with Kelly.
That's where I'm sitting as well. I think that would be an appropriate amount of people to be there and money to spend.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready for the question? Or do you want to amend the motion? We have a motion on the floor. The motion reads, Holly, will you repeat the motion?
My motion was that the Reeve and 3 councillors be allowed to attend as a function of council. I don't know what the appropriate number is. I just.
Okay. Ready for the question?
How about I amend it to the Reeve and 2 councillors be allowed to attend? Is that getting closer, Kelly?
So for me, it's not anything, it's all about the money. And I'm going to refer back to Garnet's acceptance letter of thank you that he sent to the council, where he said that he's in the past been critical of money spent. So I'm just falling in line. I think 2 is sufficient, and it's a table of 10. And I certainly hope that we can fill that table between family and council and spouses, that sort of thing. That's just where I'm at. 2 is plenty. And again, congratulations to the Altwasser family.
Okay, any further comments? Sorry, Holly, you amended your motion? Or no, you didn't. Or did?
I amended to the Reeve and 2 councillors.
So do we need to vote on that? No. Well, that's the motion. Okay, you just changed it. Yeah, okay. Okay. All in favor of the motion, please indicate. Opposed? That is carried. Okay, thank you. Okay, that'll happen, right? Go ahead, Matt.
Anybody who's interested in attending can send your name to me and I'll have Ariana draw from a hat. Is that how you want to go about it?
Okay. That's good.
Or arm wrestling is the other option. Neil wants to go all of a sudden.
Okay, are there any other functions of council to deal with?
It's a long month till we meet again. So we'll look ahead into September, I guess, into things that might be coming up, because I think our next meeting is holidays, right? So, yeah.
It's September the 7th. Yeah, go ahead.
This is actually too late now, but because it's already sold out, but maybe something to be able to discuss is the EDA dinner, which would be Wednesday, October 18th in Edmonton. I have heard very good things about it. So it's of course you pay to go to it, but it's a kind of revolving table where there's federal government and provincial government and staff there, and it's a chance to do some economic development networking. I've heard good things about it, and I'm wondering if we wanted to talk about that and then make sure we don't miss it next year, because I got the email on July 24th and it's sold out. So.
Yeah, economic development banquet, is it? Yeah, good. Okay, so we're going to get that. We'll discuss that for next year because it's sold out already, or is there still an opportunity? Okay, Matt?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can't just put that on the organizational meeting as an item to, figure out 2 or 3 or however many you want to send to that. And consider it then.
Okay, that sounds good. Oh, Kelly, please.
Just a question. Did we make Foothills Foothills Forge conference on the 16th? Did we make that a function of council yet?
Arno, can you talk a bit about that day? You might know something more than I do. It's at your place.
Well, it's actually, it certainly shouldn't be a function of council. I think it's on the eastern, primarily on eastern irrigation district land on a native pasture where there has been rotational grazing guided by electric fences. So it's a native grass tour primarily. I think the add-on at our place is for those who want to afterwards. I think the primary aspect of that is on EID land, on native grazing, looking at probably their water system and rotational grazing. So, and I think that's a credible function of council. There will be other counties that have people attending, I'm sure, based on other similar events that I've attended. So I think it should be a function of council for anyone who wants to attend. Neil?
I agree with that. It's an educational thing. And if we go through this drought, the water management, the grass management, we should know about that because it makes it easier for us to do our disaster declarations. Well, I totally agree.
Somebody prepared to make a motion to that effect? Kelly? All in favor, please indicate. That's carried.
Do we need to register beforehand, Arno? I would think.
Yes, there is a registration, I believe, but it
may be closed.
It has nothing to do with me, actually.
No.
But I think Todd, like there's.
Todd sent it out.
Yeah, there's a pamphlet, and I'm gonna would you use Todd to connect to that, or what's best, Matt?
Harass Ariana. If there's a registration fee, we'll get that all taken care of here.
Okay, so anyone who's interested or to go to that, contact Ariana and you'll get it taken care of. And I'm sure they're not, well, I doubt if they're sold out. I don't know that, but.
It says $15.
Pardon me? Is there anything else that we want for a function of council? Seeing none, I think we'll move on. There are no post-agenda items. And there are some information items noted there. Is there any questions or comments about the information items? I note the thank you letter from Sewa. Holly, did you have a comment or a question?
I was curious why the county pays for a beard trimmer. A beard trimmer.
For your fire guys who have to.
Do you all share the same one?
Yeah.
You don't get your individual.
Right? Yeah.
So it came down, everybody on the fire department had to be clean shaven at all times to wear the SCBA mask. There was a lot of pushback. So the solution was you don't have to be clean shaven all times, but if you show up on site and you have to put on a mask, you have to shave. So you can't just exactly dry shave with a little bic. Yeah. Apparently this holds a seal, because I didn't remember to shave before I used it the last call we were on.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering why there's refunds, like people pay their taxes and it says refunds on tax. So what does that mean?
Well, we've got a short list of our favorite ratepayers in the county, and no, I'm kidding. I know I can't joke, but you'd be surprised how many folks out there, you're farming with your brother and you both pay your taxes, or there's 100 different situations why we collect too much money and have to give it back to you. But that's typically what happens. Yeah, double payment, or, somebody paid through the farm account, so the limited company, and somebody paid with a personal check, and nobody communicated at the dinner table that husband and wife were both coming in. It happens. Communication, communication, communication.
That's right. Good. Okay. Seeing nothing else, I am going to look for a motion that we move into camera. Amanda, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate. That's carried.